participated. All right, let's bring in Sharan Kaur. She's a Liberal strategist, partner at Sovereign Advisory. She is working on the Liberals' re-election campaign. Hey, Sharan, good to see you. Happy Monday.
Thanks for having me.
What do you make of those polls?
Well, I think we're seeing some of the gaps starting to narrow in. But you know what? I like to tell everyone, don't get too fixated on polls. Don't take them for granted either. The only poll that really, truly matters is the one on election day. But I think we're going to continue to see more and more polls coming out, specifically closer to the debate days. And I think that's going to kind of potentially show people what's really happening. So if you look at the numbers on the screen right now, we've got the Liberal Party at 49.8 and the Conservatives at 32.1. And I think one of the most interesting parts of this poll is how low the NDP has gone. So this is really, truly turning out to be a race between the Liberals and the Conservatives. And I think the message that we're seeing resonate with Canadians a lot here, at least on the Liberal campaign, is what someone like Mark Carney can do with Donald Trump. And we've seen the tension de-escalate. We've seen all of that happen. But what we're also seeing today is pretty shocking and terrifying for a lot on the stock market. So I think a lot of things can change. We still have this debilitating auto tariff that is going to truly impact the auto industry in a way that's going to be quite consequential. So I would say let's continue to watch the polls, but I think the Liberals are pretty steady in what they're doing and what they're saying at this point.
I've had a number of people approach me, Sharan, just anecdotally, to say that they are skeptical with some of the polling they're seeing that shows that huge gap, or what was a huge gap, between the Liberals and the Conservatives. And again, Mark Carney way ahead of Pierre Poilievre in terms of preferred prime minister. And they point out to, polling being wrong in previous elections, including in the U.S. and whatnot as well. You're also talking about those debates, and there's a lot of focus on Mark Carney and his ability or inability to speak French. Is that overblown, or do you think that's a real vulnerability for him?
I do think it's partially overblown. Now, French is an extremely important aspect of Canada, and he is going to definitely put his best foot forward. Now, I'm not a Quebecer, but every Quebecer that I've spoken to has said the fact that he is improving his French daily is a really good thing, and I think we'll see that continue to happen. Now, most Canadians, specifically even Quebecers, I think are very much focused on the substance. There's a big concern around what is happening with the U.S., and we've been able to see how someone like Mark Carney has been able to de-escalate that. So I think while there'll be folks out there who will say his French is not perfect, sure, go ahead and say that. But I think what matters is his record, and considering how long he's been in this game and the change he's been able to make, specifically with what's happening in the U.S., I would look at the bigger picture versus solely as debates. Now, debates are going to be an opportunity for someone like Pierre Poilievre to just really sling mud and try to make those sound bites, try to get you in a gotcha moment. But I think the best thing for someone like Mark Carney is to stick to substance and stick to the facts and his track record to date.
And I know that we sometimes cover these live press conferences, Sharan, on the air. And I mean, I speak French. I'm pretty bilingual. I can say that Mark Carney, although it can be shaky, there is a certain command of French. He is able to answer live questions from French reporters and respond, fairly well. I mean, the certain scripts are there, obviously, for certain topics. So we'll see how it works actually in a debate format, where I assume he's going to be getting it from all sides, because, he is considered to be right now the front runner. What about the NDP, though, as they continue to hemorrhage support? Where is that going? What's happening?
Well, something that I'm hearing a lot on the ground with the NDP is you're going to have that NDP base that is always ideologically NDP and will never vote Liberal just because that's their ideology. But I'm hearing from a lot of folks, specifically at least in the Toronto area, that they're pretty concerned about what's happening in the U.S. They don't want the U.S.-style politics to come here to Canada, and they're seeing that with someone like Pierre Poilievre. And they have said they are going to be voting Liberal this time around. So we are seeing some of that bleed into the Liberal Party, but we're also seeing some of that bleed in from the Conservative Party. So I think what we're seeing from both sides is people who want more, I would say, sensible, balanced, less divisive, someone who can handle the situation without kind of turning into what we're seeing with Donald Trump. So I do think that it's going to be really interesting to see at the end what happens with the NDP, because we're seeing them hemorrhage support. I'm not going to discredit them completely, because the NDP is quite notoriously known for having good ground game on the grassroots front, and I've seen that across Canada. But I also think that a lot of NDP voters are less ideological at this point, trying to make sure that they have a leader who can handle what's happening in the U.S. And with Canada-U.S. relations to avoid any harsh economic impacts to Canadians.
Sharan Kaur joining us, Liberal strategist. She is working on this Liberal election campaign currently. Good to see you, Sharan. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me, Todd.